welcome everyone. I'm Igor Chtivelband. I'm a VP Data in Billie. And today, together with Naser, we'll talk about how Immuta helps Billie to build and secure the next generation of B2B financial services. So Naser, back to you.
Thank you so much, Igor. Hi, my name is Naser Ali. I'm the Product Marketing Director at Immuta, and very privileged to have Igor on the call with us to go through how we helped Billie move along to the next chapter in their IT environment. So with no further ado, let me go on, please, Igor, to the opening slide.
Absolutely.
Right. So because of data privacy regulations and business rules, there's now a tug of war within the enterprise. And you can see the data stewards on the left-hand side, compliance people, legal people, who all for very good reasons want to make sure that we're not overexposing, oversharing data and staying legal and compliant on one side. And on the other side, you have classic BI and data analyst people, you have data scientists, and you have application developers that are developing data-rich applications. And they want to have access to data as soon as they can in order to do the things that they need to do, of course. And what you end up with is genuine tug of war between left and right, data governors on one side, who want to put in processes that often are complex and unwieldy and difficult to change. And you've got people who can't really do their job on the other side. And obviously this problem gets much harder if you are dealing with multiple clouds and also multiple cloud platforms. So if you're using a bit of Snowflake, a bit of Databricks, a bit of Redshift, whatever, a bit of BigQuery, then suddenly this problem multiplies in how hard it is. And the outcome of this, as you can see when I click this, is that you end up with very elaborate pipelines in order to manage this, very complex data pipelines, which obviously have a huge management overhead in terms of maintenance and development. And you have email chains and Jira tickets for approval for different tables and columns and data sets and different levels of redaction. And the other thing is data engineers. Data engineers are a very expensive commodity. And what you don't want is to spend time with data engineers just doing rote tasks that are not value adding and not good career wise for them, really, because a good, well-paid data engineer will not want to do just boring work. They want to do interesting work that keeps them motivated. And this isn't generally it. As I said before, you end up with God users or peasant users. So God users have access to pretty much everything. Very dangerous, don't do that. And peasant users, on the other hand, are just constantly begging for data in order to do their job and hit their SLAs. And with any good tug of war with equal power on each side, no one is winning. So persona or sensitive data is just stuck in the middle with nobody be able to access it in time. So you, as a business that's particularly data-driven, you're losing agility, you're losing your ability to innovate, and essentially you're losing your competitive advantage. So what are the challenges with more data cloud platforms and more sensitive data? Roles are becoming harder to manage across diverse workloads. Hundreds of users can require thousands of roles, creating a bottleneck for data access, as you can see with roles on the left-hand side. Encoding logic in roles is not a good idea, because what you end up with is very, very arcane, complex groups of roles that just become very difficult to maintain. And generally, role-based access is usually very much permissive in nature rather than restrictive in nature. So you can overshare data very easily. In the middle, we have data classification, which is the original use case of Billie, who will be going into details later. And this is about managing sensitive data across heterogeneous platforms once you've classified it. It's basically not super hard to classify it in one, if you're just in Redshift, but the minute it will grow, and it will always grow because of entropy and M&A and all sorts of other factors, just trying to keep data in the right geography, etc. You will end up with multiple platforms and then trying to classify across all these multiple platforms. The third one is basically related to this as well, silo data protection. So, you have a policy for Redshift, you have a policy for Snowflake. you have a policy for Synapse or BigQuery. How do you create a way? How do you manage across those clouds? How do you make sure there's no policy gaps going between one and the other? And how do you maintain that lack of policy gap? You could probably do it right the first time, but as time goes on and entropy builds in the process, you'll find the gaps appearing naturally. So Immuta deals all three: centralizing governance, discovering data and classifying it, and applying consistent data privacy. So let's have a look at centralized governance, or unified access, as we call it sometimes. Scaling user adoption, using flexible access controls, role attribute, or purpose-based controls to maximize user adoption. That sounds like a throwaway line attribute-based access control, but it's a huge deal. What you're really doing is you're allowing attributes such as where the data scientist is, i.e. is he or she in Japan or the US or India, is he or she or they senior level or junior levels, what kind of security clearances do they have? By being able to use attributes on the actual consumer level rather than just dumb roles, you can put a lot more user adoption into how you access data and make it very, very much easier to code around rather than having multiple thousands of roles, as we saw in the previous slide. You simplify access control as well by having simple, flexible policies that basically make management much easier and reduce risk without having to say no to customers or make them wait. That's that tug of war. That's it trying to resolve that you basically eliminate. And then those policies are written, as you can see in the right-hand side graphic, in plain English, so that data owners can understand the business context and understand enough to get buy-in. This is really important when you're dealing with legal and compliance people. They want to see rules written in a way that is digestible and understandable. They are not technology gurus, and we shouldn't expect them to be. And this bringing it out in plain English makes that much, much easier. So next is data discovery and classification. So what we're really talking about is auto classification of data to find sensitive data across your platforms. Again, if there's a load of sensitive data in one platform and another set of sensitive data that could be related in another platform, how do you consistently tag across those? Again, this is the main original use case for Billie. Then make sure that cross-platform tagging centralizes the metadata, so you have one group of metadata to kind of rule them all. This could actually be from your original catalog provider as well. It doesn't have to be within our metadata repository. You can easily import stuff in from Calibra or Elation or whatever else you use to make that easier. And then enable consistent enforcement to prevent unauthorized access. So you know that once it's there, once it's baked in, that you've got the whole thing locked down. This gives you the one throat to choke, essentially. This is really useful if you're moving from on-prem to cloud, where that one throat to choke isn't your firewall network manager anymore in terms of stopping stuff going out. So the next one is consistent data privacy. And here what you want to do is essentially what we call PETs, or what everyone else actually calls PETs, privacy enhancing technologies, where you author a policy once and it applies everywhere. You've got standardized privacy controls, and you've got that cross-platform logic. But what you're really doing here with this consistent data privacy is making sure that when person A is talking to person B, that they're not going to be able to combine data in a way that you don't want. If you think about, again, Cambridge Analytica, what they did as a linkage attack, they combined data from different sources and built a very strong idea of individuals, which was of questionable legal allowability in that sense. And so what you can do is add noise to the data to the right level to prevent those linkage attacks. And that's really powerful when you're working cross-domain, cross-people. You think about healthcare, you think about financial services, where people are sharing data in order to produce risk reports or do some healthcare analysis. This is the real kind of killer app here in terms of being able to collaborate and share data and manage it at scale in a really useful way. So bringing it all together with a consistent data and access and governance across different platforms, as we see here, you've got all these row headers here, as you can see, row level security, you've got the attribute-based stuff, which is really powerful. It just solves so many problems, just taking that pain away. you've got the pets, that whole adding noise and redaction and hashing and all that good stuff there at a scalable way that can be done on the fly without any performance hits as well. That just makes our stuff much easier to use, as Billie will validate. The ability to audit policies in a way that's in English, plain English language, so that your compliance people can understand, and to be able to discover data, as Billie will identify as the original use case. But if you take away one thing today, the main thing to take away is that you're essentially abstracting your compute layer away from your access control part. So that therefore, any changes you have in compute, whether you go platform A or platform B, you're future-proofing yourself for. And in future-proofing it, it makes it so much easier for you to move platforms. You're not stuck. When you move data from platform A to platform B, there is a data gravity problem, but there's also a process gravity problem in terms of access control. And what you're doing is killing that process gravity problem in one fell swoop. And on that note, let me hand over to Igor. Thank you very much.
Thank you, Naser. So I'm here to talk about how we use Immuta in Billie and our story, our common story. So first of all, let's talk about Billie as a company. Who are we? We are a fintech startup from Berlin. We started this company as a group of friends in 2016. And since then, we grew to more than 110 employees. So yeah, significant growth. And what do we do? Currently, we have two core products. The first product is invoice factoring. So what is exactly invoice factoring? It's very simple. It's when you deliver some kind of service and you want to get paid earlier than your customer is actually ready to pay to you. So we have an interesting use case right now, for example, in Germany, when we finance invoices from Corona test centers against German government, and we allow these Corona test centers to get paid earlier and to have capital so they can extend their operations. And the second product which we offer, it's pay after delivery solution for B2B e-commerce shops. So you can think about as kind of Klarna in B2B segment for the sake of simplicity. And how did we come to Immuta? Why did we start using Immuta? So it was quite simple. We were adding more and more data sources, so we start to bring data from our production databases, from CRM system, from our advertising channels like Facebook, LinkedIn, Bing, Google AdWords. And so we had more and more various data sources, and we had more and more internal stakeholders who started to use with them, because at the beginning this was just BI engineers, but later also product owners and the top management and the data science team and the risk analysts. So and together with this additional internal stakeholder who started to use data, we started to have more and more questions about what does this table mean? Like, what is user score? What is company code? Where can I find risk attributes? Where can I find fraud-related attributes? And at the beginning, we tried to deal with that kind of questions using a simple Slack channel, but we were kept more and more busy answering these inquiries. So we realized that it's time for a change. We have to find a solution for that. And initially we was looking for very simple solutions. So we wanted to create data catalog. So we wanted to document our data artifacts. We wanted to allow our users to perform search in this data catalog. So let's say when they type score, they see all the tables and not the column that contain any scores, right? And also we wanted to allow grouping of various data attributes by some business domain. So for example, if someone is looking for anything which has anything to do with payments, we wanted to group all the tables or columns related to payments and tag them as payments related artifacts, or customer onboarding, or fraud, or any other use case. So it would help internal stakeholders to navigate through these artifacts. Okay, and we start to use Immuta, and this is more or less how our current data infrastructure looks like. So we have various data sources that is coming to our data warehouse, which is Snowflake. We perform transformation in this data warehouse using dbt, quite standard approach. However, you see this layer of Immuta on top of our data warehouse. It means that our our internal stakeholders, they do not interact directly with Snowflake, but they interact via Immuta. And don't be confused, Immuta is not making queries of internal stakeholders slower. So because Immuta is smart, I would put it like that. And so you see that we use Okta, which is integrated with Immuta for identity and access management, and we have data stewards whose job is to document these data artifacts. Remember this tug of war slide from Naser about the data controls, data stewards, and data users. So these are the data stewards whose job to provide the description for the data artifacts. And so why we chose specifically Immuta? There are few reasons. Reason number one, simplicity of the setup. It took me something like less than 1 hour, 40 minutes to set up the very initial version of Immuta, and I really liked it. The second reason is a great customer or technical support. So when we have any problem, we can control our, we can contact our account manager in Immuta. I wish we could control him. And we can ask questions, and we immediately get response if we need some extra feature. And it's a great feeling to be appreciated as a customer. And last but not least, Immuta also offers a very reasonable pricing model, and we are still not a corporate one, not Deutsche Bank. So our pockets are not very deep. And that is why, of course, this reasonable pricing, it's quite important factor for us. Now, however, that was, we talked about the initial set of requirements which we had in mind when we started to implement Immuta. But de facto, we got a lot of other features on top as bonus, which we're not expecting. So most of these features are related to these technical capabilities, which Naser was talking about. For example, automatic detection of sensitive data. So Immuta automatically detects data like phone numbers, emails, bank transactions, credit card numbers, and tells us, Igor, this is sensitive data, do something about it. What does it mean do something about it? It's very easy using Immuta to perform masking or hashing of your data. So you can say, okay, I want to mask these specific columns in these tables, as long as customer is not part of accounting team, not customer, the internal stakeholder, for example. And talking about internal stakeholders, now using Immuta, it's very easy for us to control access to specific tables or columns. So we can say, okay, these are the people who are supposed to have access to this table. And when I open table in Immuta, I see the list of people in Billie who can access it and what they can do with this data. So it's extremely valuable. Last but not least, audit of users' activities. So we don't want to spy after our internal stakeholders. However, if the worst thing happens and we have an unpleasant event of data leakage and we have to perform investigation, we can do it using Immuta, and that's very helpful because it gives us this peace of mind, and our compliance team, they really love this feature. It's a real game changer for us. That's all nice, and we've done a lot using Immuta, but still we are not finished. We are not completely done, and still there is stuff to build. So first of all, we want to establish the data governance culture. What does it mean? It means that when developers develop a new feature, they add new table, they add new column, they also have to document it. So they have to maintain this data catalog, because data catalog is only valuable if it's full, if it's complete, right? Which means that, okay, once we establish this data governance culture, we want to finish documenting all the existing data sets, because we have hundreds of tables, which means that we have thousands of columns, and all these columns should be documented in order to become useful for internal stakeholders. So that's we have to do it. And on top of that, there is a nice new product from Immuta, Immuta Cloud, because today we host Immuta by ourselves on our EC2 instance in AWS. And it would be nice if we could get rid of this headache and delegate maintenance of our Immuta instance to Immuta team, because this is their bread and butter, and they definitely can do it better than us. We want to focus on our business on fintech. That's more or less it about how we use Immuta in Billie. Why do we use Immuta in Billie? Once again, we're very happy customers, and that's the main reason why we have this talk today. Naser, back to you.
Thank you so much, Igor. That's brilliant. So this is just a summary of how we get going with customers, the next steps. We basically have the data governance experts. We have people who understand both law and technology. So we can bring those to bear in any of your current situations. We understand the gaps. We basically can manage all the integrations. We can work with the business cases, etc. And we can do this all within a time scale and all that. If you go to the next slide, then it's just basically our, I know, one more. Back, sorry. Back one.
Yeah, I'm not sure how to do the back one here. Okay,
so back button on there. Okay. So basically, please come to our booth with our request. Every 15 minutes, it's a one-to-one meeting. Please schedule a one-to-one meeting at our virtual booth with one of our data experts. You can walk you through this process that I've just shown you, and can go into depth and more detail about some of the features and integrations that we discussed, and maybe even some more details about what Igor was talking about as well, in terms of the sort of value we can deliver and how quickly we can do it. And after that, I think we are basically on time to ask for any questions.
Absolutely. Let's move to questions. Do we have any questions, actually?
I believe I had some jitter problems, some internet issues that were observed at your end. Is there anything that we missed, or either of us, on this?
Hopefully not. So people are complaining about the connectivity.
Connectivity, yeah.
I don't see any questions.
Well, in that case, maybe we can, I don't know if you want to talk about the architecture for another minute, and then we can just leave it at that. Go back 3 or 4, actually going back a few slides is not that easy.
Absolutely, yeah.
Yeah. I think that's that's the one that people will understand best, I think.
1 second. You mean this one?
This one, yeah. That's the one. If you wanted to explain what's going on in the left-hand side, and then how it flows through for like another minute.
Yeah, absolutely. So the thing is that today in the data domain, there is quite standard technological stack. There are clear market leaders, and actually I see Immuta as one of them. And we try to use this best of breed approach using these tools which prove to be useful for us. And for example, you can see that we use Fivetran for segment and stitch for the data integration. So these are the tools which are very useful because they have connectors like Salesforce connector or Google AdWords connector or MySQL connector, and it's very easy to plug them into a database and to say, okay, this is my source, for example, my MySQL production database, and this is my destination, which is, as I mentioned here, Snowflake, right? And when the new portion of data is brought to the data warehouse, it's very easy again to trigger some kind of transformation using dbt, so to transform raw data in a more cleaned multi-dimensional version of data. And actually this is exactly what we want to expose to our internal stakeholders using Immuta, and we want to make it easy for them to use this data. So they open Immuta, they say, okay, I want to, I don't know, to perform some kind of ad hoc analysis of customer scores. So they just type customer score. They see all the tables tagged with customer scores. Without leaving Immuta, they just go in Immuta to a query tab. They say, okay, now I want to query table, I don't know, table financial scores, right? So they just type select star from financial scores, and it all happens in Immuta. And if they are not allowed to see specific score, this score is going to be masked. So very easy, very intuitive approach, very, how would I say, I don't know to use the word primitive, but yeah, probably intuitive is the right word. And exactly, and the same for the data steward. So these are people who just go to Okta, like for any other tool in Billie. They click on Immuta icon, they automatically logged into to Immuta, and then they see, okay, these are the tables which are still not documented. They go to the table and they just type, okay, table user scores was created by this team, and this is what it's used for, and this is what that column is used for, because you already have even that field purpose in Immuta. So you can provide the purpose what for this table is usually used. And what's also useful that Immuta has a good API. So if you already have some kind of data catalog tool in place and you want to bring it into Immuta, this description of data which you already have, I don't know, in Excel file, let's say, it's very easy to do it using API, so you don't have to manually type it again in Immuta. Yes, it was awesome. Long monologue from me, Naser, but
that was the best monologue I've heard in a long time. Thank you so much, Igor. That's absolutely brilliant. Thank you for that. And given that there's no more questions, shall we call it a day? Thank everyone for their attendance.
I believe we can do it, Naser.
Yeah, we can do that. Absolutely. Thank you. You go first.
No, after you, Naser.
Thank you so much, everyone, for coming on this call with us today and seeing the sort of joint journey between us and Billie, and how we helped each other here into building a real kick-ass type of fintech company. Thank you for that. Sorry.
Thank you, Naser. Well, I can just repeat once again that we're very happy customers of Immuta, and I can recommend Immuta to any firm which is looking for a way to improve the data governance, because this is what it's for. And yeah, I hope it was helpful for our audience. And thank you, Naser, once again.
Thank you so much. Thank you. I shall hit the stop broadcast button. I think you should do the same. Thank you so much. Cheers.
I will. Bye.
Bye.